Hello and welcome back to the Single Malt Review. On this absolutely cracking summer's day, I thought I would capitalise on the weather and export a little bit of Southern Hemisphere summer up to your viewers in the north, where I'd imagine it's just about to get really rather chilly for Christmas, whereas it's just about to get rather sweltering down here for ours, but never mind. Just Tim here today with a very casual review, as you can see from the attire, of a fairly casual whisky. And what is it? It's Glenlivet 12 years old. Something that you would really have to call ubiquitous in the whisky world. And I think every whisky drinker, let alone whisky lover, should be more than casually familiar with the particular dram, because it is everywhere, and it has been everywhere for just about as long as single malt whisky has been widely available. I'd say Glenlivet 12, if you're into your whisky history, it's well worth looking it up, because it is in a very large part responsible for single malt whisky as we know it today. It was the one that got into that American market and broke the whole thing open, but that is another and much longer story. Today we're just going to look at the whisky. Now, Glenlivet 12, much like its friend Glenfiddich 12, a very, very similar whisky, is often accused of being ordinary. And that's slightly unfair. It is ordinary compared to some of the more outlandish stuff we normally try, but you have to remember that that's very, very much the exception to the rule of single malt whisky. Truly ordinary whisky, that's blended whisky. And it's usually a lot younger than 12 years old. If it has no age statement, you'd be lucky if it was had an average age of 8 years old for most cheaper blends, which we've never looked at. We may in the future, because of course they're 90% of where all malt goes in the world, or something tragic number like that. But anyway, they're more important than you think, these ordinary whiskies, because they're what the ordinary drinkers drink. And so if they're not good, they're not going to provide whisky converts, so they need to be good. Now, if I was one of those reviewers, I'd say, well, that smells like Speyside in a glass, which says absolutely nothing. What it does smell of is white-fleshed fruits, apples and pears particularly, and gently. It's distinct, but everything in there is gentle. There's apple, there's pear, there's heather, honey, quite a lot of floral character for a Speyside. There's gorse flower, what you probably call, I believe, wind bushes in the old country. Very distinctive smell once you know it. It's very fresh. It's very clean. It's not complex, but then it doesn't need to be, and it shouldn't be, because the sort of onboarding nature of this whisky is such that it should be more complex than the next tier down, which is your blend, but not so complex as to have casual drinkers bounce off it, and that's really quite important. It's a stepping stone, it's not a destination. Now, let's see what's inside. White fruits again. It's so distinctly of apples and pears. It's really quite unmistakable. And let's see. The honey is still there. It's coming more into a darker honey on the palate, more of a bush honey, less of a clover. There's quite a fresh bitterness coming through. Not a herbal bitterness, just a difficult to describe, really. A slightly alkali bitterness, but not too herbal at all. The only herbaceous characters is a little bit of slightly fresh hay, and again those lovely, lovely floral notes. A bit more honeysuckle than winterbush coming out of the palate. And really, there isn't too much else in there. It's not a sort of kaleidoscopic thesaurus of flavour like some of the ones we taste, some of the more complex whiskies, but what it is extremely pleasant. It's nice to drink and it rewards you. And in that respect, I think it really does its job. And if you just want to have a very casual dram on a nice afternoon, I'd recommend it. It's pleasant to drink, it's rewarding to drink, and it's not challenging to drink. You don't need to engage brain too much. You don't need to get out your tasting book and write notes to do it justice. You just have to drink it and enjoy it. And there's really something to be said for that. Whiskey doesn't always have to be this terribly connoisseurial, cerebral exercise. Sometimes you just want to sit down with a dram and enjoy it. And this whiskey like this is perfect for that because it's always available and more or less it's very well priced compared to some of the more exclusive things at any rate. It will spike enormously once it goes above 12 years old. I don't know at what point it turns into solid gold in the cask, but it's, from experience, somewhere between 15 and 18 years old for single malt whiskies. It would be highly unusual that I would buy a, call it on-brand 18-year-old whiskey because they are colossally expensive compared to the independently bottled versions. And I don't really know why. It's a bit of a mystery to me. Obviously there's less marketing overheads for the independent bottlers, but goodness me, I don't know. The price difference is just whopping. At any rate, perfectly pleasant whiskey, very casual, and with whiskey like this, you can just sit down and enjoy it at your own pace with your own rules. So I'm going to do something that's going to make half the whiskey reviewers on the internet explode. So hold on to your hats. I'm going to have it with a bit of ice. Which those same reviewers will quite correctly say rather kills the nose and dulls the palate. But I wasn't there to write a thesis on it. And what it has done is made it cool, refreshing, and just that little bit more enjoyable on a hot day. So keep that in mind. Don't let the whiskey tell you what to do, and don't let reviewers tell you what to do either. Drink whiskey on your own rules. Don't waste it, certainly, but enjoy it. There's no rules in the whiskey game, not really. Now, as for scores, I think that's the most even 70 I could ever give, which is rather useful because I can use that in the future as a benchmark that you can compare other whiskies to. And in the meantime, stay warm up there in the northern hemisphere. We will attempt to stay cool down here, and Dave and myself will have something a bit more interesting for you very shortly. Slanjo.